Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and friends. And thankfully, well, Twitter is down, folks. DMs are down, so we had to go old school and actually email everyone the links. Thankfully, I have everyone's cell phone number. We all were talking like we were like 8 years old again and on the phone and, through the can. Hey, I'm coming over, that kind of a thing. So we're all most of the panels here. We do have other people popping in momentarily. Lots of big news. Obviously, the show was rewritten as of this morning at like 7 or 8 o'clock when the news dropped of the CMA's detailed report regarding the $70 billion ABK deal. Obviously, there's been a ton of misinformation, folks. A lot of people are doing victory laps as of this morning about this deal being dead, and when in fact that's not the case at all. It is far from being dead, and we're gonna break it down why that is. A lot of the things that were said, if you read the document, which was it was extensive, and if you care about this kind of stuff, you read the document, which I did. A lot of people on this panel did. There were some paragraphs that were very pronounced in big words that you may or may not understand, but that's what we're here for. We're here for the next 2 hours to break down everything. And talking in the green room seconds ago, Hargeet, first of all, welcome, brother. You seem to think that this deal is far from over. As a matter of fact, you think the opposite. How you feeling? And welcome back, dude.
Yeah, feeling good. We got Hogwarts Legacy this week. Yes! Fantastic game.
It is so good. I'm like almost 20 hours in and I can't stop.
Right? Just the beginning alone, it's so good. Like I was, my sister actually she doesn't play games that much, but this had her interest too. And first she asked me, is this a PlayStation exclusive? So that's how their advertising works.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, actually, because I game share with her. I'm like, no, I actually bought it. You can play it now. Nice. And she's like, oh, let's start the beginning and let's see if you like it. She's like, I already want them to make a sequel. It's so good. She hasn't even played it yet. She just watched it.
You know what's crazy? I was telling Kay
good.
Asante this. I am starting to get feelings that I got early last year with what's the Souls-like game? Why am I thinking
Elden Ring?
Elden Ring.
Yeah, I already put that out there. I think this is this year's Elden Ring. It's so good.
Do.
Everybody's playing it. Everybody I see is playing that game. It's awesome,
dude. It is. The problem with Hogwarts is that it's too good. And it's too good because you pin something that you want to go do, right? You pin it. Like, I want to go here. And in the course of getting from A to B, you go through, you go from C to Z and then go back to B. It's madness, but it's so much fun. It is. Has a lot of cues to Destiny with the different color. Purple is in gold. It's just for your equipment. It's just, my God. I'm gonna tell you this. Look, I'm an old man, folks. I admit it. I'm an old man. I'm gonna be 53. I get it, right? I stayed up to 2:30 in the morning because I turned it on after Mrs. Boom went to bed at a little bit before 12. And I looked and I said, where the F did 2.5 hours go? This is madness. Yeah. This is just madness. So it's great to have you here. Can't wait to hear your opinion on the ABK deal because all seriousness, there is a lot of confusion. I mean, even myself had to be talked off the ledge this morning because I thought that it was not going to happen. And well, here we are. And let's get to the 5 spaces. There we go. Look at that professionalism.
Yep.
Everborn Saga, we'll get to you in a hot second. But Hargeet, thanks so much for being here, brother. Kay Asante with the OG Jaws.
Everborn, I'm getting feedback from Everborn.
What's going on?
Oh, yeah, there's feedback. A little bit of feedback.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, better. Welcome, Kay Asante. You have a lot to say about this. We were talking pretty much the whole day.
Yeah. This is gonna be an interesting conversation, man. And as I like to say, the news gods, they just keep providing some crazy stuff going on, And as soon as you want to talk about it, Twitter goes, nope, we ain't talking to you today. You have reached your quota for the day, sir. Crazy. We gotta find a better solution for that thing, by the way. That's neither here nor there. But no, I'm happy to be here. There's so much to talk about with the ABK stuff. Nintendo just dropped 45 minutes of yeah, you're going to be paying $70 for Abacus games now. It is what it is, but I'm not complaining because I'm playing the OG Tetris game right on here right now. So I'm not complaining that much. I'm here for it.
She likes the original Tetris, and she was she's the Tetris master.
It is the game of games. Fight me on it. I will end my intro by saying I'm very happy to be here. And screw you, Everborn Saga. Your camera looks great. I'm moving on.
All right. Well, that's what you get. That's what you get. But listen, Crispy Bomb, thanks for being here, brother. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Go Chiefs, baby. Let's go. It's one of those things like, you guys are making me want to.
Oh, dude,
buy
I'm sorry.
Hogwarts Legacy, dude. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, and it's one of those things like I do enjoy, like, some of those movies are really good. I'm sorry, like, some of those movies are really good.
They were fantastic.
I never read no books, but that's where you go and say, like, people are going crazy over a situation that is basically the writer of the source material. It's like, you look at some of the movies we've seen in our lives, and I'm sorry, dude. Like, there's a fine line to ride. And, I think we're at the point where we need to look at ourselves and be like, are we being worse than what that is? What we're talking about is. And I think that's something that we have to get over, because we are at a point where we need to be honest with ourselves and understand that people make mistakes, but also, does all these people that are involved in this game, are they the problem? And they're not. And
ultimately they did nothing. They literally did nothing but make
the people that play the game are not at all. I mean, they just love Harry Potter. Is there a problem with that? Come on, people. Like, I'm sorry, I went on a rant, but yeah, it's awesome to be here.
Well, happy to have you here. Mag, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Hey, guys. Sorry about that. Had a couple technical difficulties from the email.
The whole night's been a technical difficulty.
Yeah,
it's been
I don't know what the hell happened with the DMs and Twitter and stuff. But anyways, it doesn't matter.
Elon finally broke it. That's
By the way, I just like to point out, now that Everborn's here, his camera might be good. I still look more handsome. So I just wanted to point that out there. But anyways,
I agree, 100%. Let's go. Come on, let's go.
Anyways, guys, we got some spicy stuff to talk about. Hey, OBM's here. Guys, we got some spicy things to talk about tonight. I'm not even going to waste anybody else's time. Let's just get into the show.
Everborn Saga, you handsome man. Look at you, right in the middle, showing off that nice beard and your camera looking sharp. How you feeling?
Well, thank you. I'm feeling good, man.
We can now see your grays are very gray, sir.
Wow.
Very good. We can see it now. Yeah, we can see it.
The slander from the top right is it's like Hollywood Squares. There's the one guy in the corner talking smack.
Hey, so I just, like, I'm super hyped for tonight, but Crispy, I think you hit the nail on the head. I almost want to buy Harry Potter out of spite.
Yes.
But I have never, ever cared about Harry Potter. I think it's a terrible series, and I was never interested for the game. And so that is the only reason I don't have it. But I think the outrage about it is so stupid.
It's ridiculous.
And to the point where I wonder if WB Games manufactured it. Right? If you look at every Disney movie and every boycott campaign that you've ever seen for any movie or release, they always end up doing gangbusters. You know why? Because everyone's talking about it, and all the haters are going to buy it to see if there's something to hate on it. Yeah. All the news outlets have to talk about it because everybody's hating on it, and all the people who don't like the people who hate on it buy it to talk about them, and you get this instant feedback loop that just means clicks and traffic and awareness, and now everyone has to check it out, and you all fell for it.
Hey, Everborn.
So, yes, sir.
How did Howard Stern become so popular?
Being the bad guy.
But here's the thing. What did the ratings board say? Do you guys remember the movie? This was a true story. The ratings board that says, how the hell do people hating him have a 33% increase? And it says, because they want to hear what he has to say next. And they go, well, then how does the people that love him have a 40% increase or whatever? Is it because they want to hear what he's going to say next? Yes. And so it was always controversy. So the controversy brought haters and lovers to the table. This is no different, right?
And this is why we think that they did it on purpose.
Oh, I think they
Yes.
played it up a little bit. I think they played it up a
It
little
is
bit. But
the same. It's the
there are
same
people
reason
out
that
there.
the god awful Star Wars movies all did $1 billion. It's the same reason Captain Marvel did $1 billion. Your boycotts don't work.
Right.
And I think that these are psyops that these marketing companies are playing just to get us to talk about these things. And again, the only reason I don't have Hogwarts is because I think Harry Potter is stupid. But anyway,
I will say
enough,
this. This
sir.
is such an amazing RPG in its own right. It is so well done. It is so well written. I mean, I don't know. I'm double-digit hours in. I can't stop playing it. I mean, every character that I have met so far has been endearing, and you want to know more about them. It's just phenomenal. Like I said, it is. I'll put it this way: it's a game that could have went horrendously wrong, and somehow they did it right. So that's what I will say. But listen, OBM, what's going on, brother? You have a lot to say. We've been talking both publicly and privately regarding the ABK deal. You brought me up to speed into why you think that this deal isn't dead. I don't know how long we have. You and Everborn are not going to be here for too long, so I want to get your opinions first. But how you feeling, brother? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. Yeah, it's always nice to be invited. Nice to see everybody. And it's always seems like on a Wednesday when there's a chance that I might be on here, something breaks. So
Yes.
again, you're welcome. You're welcome.
correlation or causation.
I think by now it's got to be correlation, right? I mean, there's probably more correlation there than there is between the CMA's finding and, precedent. But, yeah, I'll only be here for probably like maybe half a show. So I got, juggling a lot of things today, but I wanted to make sure I just got a chance to come in. And
yeah, we'll get you and everyone in here first. Luke Steele, who is obviously worked and fought against the CMA. He is a good friend of ours from the UK. He is having some technical issues. That's just today as a whole. So the link has been sent. Hopefully he can get in here and we can get his opinion, because obviously he is in the UK. He understands the CMA. He has gone against them. But I want to go first to everyone who has the least time to be here. Everyone, let's get into some of your breakdowns, because you, Kay Asante, and myself were talking throughout the day. I originally was on the fence. I was like, this deal is dead. But then seeing the way things were written by the CMA, and once it was broken down, and once I had a better understanding of the document that had been put out there, I'm like you. I'm in the camp. I think that this deal is going to get done. And I said you said this when we were talking. If they wanted to outright block the deal, they would have just outright blocked the deal. They don't have to do this. Yeah, who would have thunk it?
So this is the thing, right? I think that everyone, and this is the irony of all this. If I asked everyone on this panel and in the chat and on Twitter writ large, and I know this for a fact because I literally did a poll that got nearly 1,000 votes. We are on the eve of the CMA's decision. Do you think they will outright block the deal, approve it with remedies, or approve it with no remedies? 67% of the results in that poll that received that's like 670 people said it'll have remedies. And now today the CMA says, hey, we think that there's an SLC and here are some possible remedies. This is exactly what everyone expected.
Could you just do me a favor and explain what the SLC means?
It is a substantial lessening of competition.
Thank you. Yes. Just want to make sure that everyone's clear about
now,
that.
The reason that's important, if you thought that there would be remedies, the CMA cannot accept or entertain any remedies unless they have found that there was an SLC in their investigation. And they say they have found that. Now, another thing that while everyone was panicking and saying the sky is falling and every news site looking for clicks only read option 1 instead of reading their behavioral remedies, but that's neither here nor there. What we all left out is that in their original complaint, they also noted Game Pass and subscription services and how that could be a problem and hamper competition. You know what's absent from this Game Pass.
Yes,
Because
correct.
it is not. In
That's the
fact,
biggest part.
they have even acknowledged that Game Pass could spur competition and innovation.
Yes.
And they have said,
Yep.
here's one option where you could solve this problem. You could get rid of Call of Duty. You know why they said that? Because that would be one way to solve the problem.
Correct.
But here is another way to solve the problem that we will listen to, which we have not included in our SLC findings yet, is behavioral remedies. And the way they explicitly laid this out, the way we would consider behavioral remedies is through an access function. And what access means, and they specifically spelled it out, your competitors have access to the game on equal terms such that it would allay our SLC concerns.
Yes.
Now, what does that translate to? They do not have an SLC concern of Game Pass, right?
Right.
So what they're looking to solve is for the first two, cloud access. So this means you have to get a deal with NVIDIA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And console exclusivity. Now you're already going to Nintendo. That deal is on paper.
Right.
And if the deal is there for Steam and available to Sony whenever they want it, it's right there. It's right there in front of our faces. All you have to do is wait for it, read, right? If you read, you will see that nothing's over yet. So they suggested some options, and now Microsoft and Activision go back and they explain why this may work.
Everborn, you say it's not over yet, but wouldn't it be better put to say that this is exactly what you want to see happen? This is part of the
This
process.
is exactly what
It's
everyone
heading-
crying about it
Yes.
said would
Yes.
happen. They would offer remedies, and they're saying they're entertaining behavioral remedies, which means the 10-year deal, which we've all been talking about for the last 6 months. So I do not I do understand it is easier to get a click when you say the CMA wants Microsoft to sell Activision or COD. Everybody loses their mind. No one actually reads the document, and here we are. I gotta listen to tears all day in like 6 different DMs, and I think it's the tears that got into the servers and broke Twitter.
There he goes.
So that's where I'm for now. I'm gonna hang out around for a little while because I want to see if I can wait till Luke gets here because I want to ask.
Yeah, he'll be here momentarily. I literally just sent him the link again. Again, technical issues on Twitter really kind of hampered getting everyone here. As a matter of fact, here is Luke Steele, literally right now. Luke, what's going on, brother? Let me get over to the brand so it doesn't look weird. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Okay,
there we go.
Now, there you go. Luke, how you feeling, brother? You had technical difficulties. Twitter had difficulties. I had technical difficulties, but you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. That was
yeah. You sound great. You look great. Good
fantastic.
stuff, brother.
I
think his camera might be better than mine. I'm kind of jealous.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Like, let's do a
Good
segment
camera.
right now about his camera because I definitely want to get that.
We want to know. That's right.
You know, Luke,
We'll discuss
listen,
that post show.
Yeah. Well, Luke, first of all, welcome to the show. We only have Everborn Saga here for a little bit, but he wanted to hang around until you got here specifically because he wanted to ask you some questions. So by all means, Everborn, please take it away.
No, I want to hear Luke's take first, and then I'll come with some follow-up.
Okay, yeah.
questions.
So Luke,
If Luke
again,
will allow.
we're going to get to Hargeet, and that's Kayasante, Crispy Bond, Mag, everybody, Mother One as well. But Luke, for our viewers, there's over 500 people here, which is amazing. So thank you so much for checking out tonight's show.
How many likes though? Because
I don't know how many likes. To be honest with you, Twitter's broken, so I can't really tell. But I'll look in a minute. Luke, let's get your hot take on the situation. A lot of people thought the deal was dead immediately. I don't think it is, and there's reasons why. Everyone had pointed out why the deal isn't dead. We know that you in the past, you were here a couple of months ago, you said that traditionally the CMA does not like to take these remedies. They like to restructure things so they don't have to police what is going on. But this is an unusual deal at an unusual time in the world. We know that the Prime Minister of the UK said that he wants that region of the world to become like the next Silicon Valley. We know that he said that he wants, to bring, trade and different kind of business models to that region of the world. I don't know if that happens if this deal is killed, because then who's going to want to try and get something passed over there? But you said I want you to specifically talk about the remedies. Is there a chance that Microsoft says, "Hey, listen, we're going to work with you guys. Tell us, this is our plan. We're giving everyone a 10-year deal. We'll put it into law. We'll put it into however you want to do it." But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a complicated question, but I'll try and give my thoughts. So, first of all, I think all along I've been probably expecting this in some capacity, and certainly over the last couple of weeks, the noises that have been coming out of Satya Nadella and Bobby Kotick, etc., suggested that they'd had the famous CMA behind the scenes heads up, which does happen. The CMA will give the parties this kind of document probably a couple of weeks before they publish it on the website, mainly so they can go through it and redact.
We can't. Yeah, we can't. We can't hear you, Luke.
Yeah, there was a lot of breaking up there too,
Yeah.
and delays.
Oh,
Too
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah,
You
there
sound
go.
good.
You're good.
That was so bizarre. Okay, hopefully this doesn't break.
CMA's trying to silence you.
Yeah. They've bugged my mic. They bugged it. Hopefully still okay.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah, you go.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's go for it then. Yeah. So I think what I was saying was that somewhat expected from my perspective that this was going to come out pretty quickly. Seemingly by the stuff that Kotick and Satya Nadella, etc., had been saying, they were expecting this too. So I think in terms of the report, which I've gone through, I haven't gone through the actual full findings, which are about 277 pages or something.
Yikes.
Like that. So this is it's a really which is actually pretty big for the CMA. I mean, usually these are big documents, but this is a really big document. And on the remedy element, it's nothing is really surprising me there in terms of what they've suggested. I've been on here before, Boom, as you mentioned, and talked about the fact that the CMA like are structural remedies, so divestitures, etc. In merger scenarios, I will say they will consider other types of remedies in different scenarios. And they really dislike behavioral ones, and behavioral ones typically come down to things like contracts, etc. I don't want to say the deal is dead, because there's no absolutes in this, right? It's not as if every case is the same, and certainly this case is not the same as other cases, although it's still a merger. It's concerning vertical integration of companies, etc. But typically, if you get to this point, if I was sat in a room with Microsoft advising them as their lawyer, I would be saying that by all means engage with the CMA in terms of trying to offer, significant behavioral remedies. If they don't want to do any structural remedies at all, if they're not interested in that, which I can't imagine Microsoft are, particularly some of the ones that have been, promoted by the CMA. I'd be saying by all means do that and offer what you can, but the likelihood of the deal actually going through in terms of Microsoft offering a behavioral remedy or behavioral remedies that are adjunct to structural ones and that the CMA will accept is pretty low, I would say, at this point. And a lot of the wording in the CMA's report when they talk about behavioral remedies is pretty similar to other phase 2 cases of different mergers, etc. It's not that dissimilar. It's kind of boilerplate to some extent. Now, the CMA will never rule a behavioral remedy out because they're under a regulatory obligation to consider any remedies. So they'll never say, don't even bother coming to us with a behavioral remedy. We're not interested in it. But some of this is almost lip servicey because you would have to do something that's an adjunct to a structural divestiture, which is kind of impossible in this case, to be able to get the CMA to agree to say a contract. But they left the door open. the jar a bit. Microsoft might peek in and they might grab something. It depends on what they can do. I mean, the CMA seemed on the, they identified, and I think Everborn talked about the SLCs, right? They identified two, one of which was the console gaming one and one of which was the cloud one. They seem to say that the console gaming one might be remedied by a behavioral remedy and the type that Microsoft have already publicly offered. The cloud one's more difficult. But on the other hand, later in the same document, they actually say the circumstances where the CMA might consider a behavioral remedy are not present in this case. The CMA actually say that in the report. And then they say that they're of the initial view that any behavioral remedy is going to cause too much risk in terms of the SLCs, right? So they kind of outwardly express that they're really not convinced by behavioral remedies at this point, and that they think the structural ones are the ones to go for.
So, yeah, that was in paragraph 18. I think they referenced paragraph 15, where they laid out the scenarios where they would accept a behavioral remedy. But my first question to you is, would they clearly lay out a behavioral remedy as an option if they weren't actually considering it? And I know you kind of spoke to that a little bit. You think it's boilerplate and they rarely take those. I think in this scenario, though, do we have any sort of are there any similar scenarios where an entertainment IP was considered as an essential input to an industry, and a structural remedy was the only way to do it? So I guess my question is, are we in uncharted territory in terms of an entertainment merger that we're looking at?
I mean, you probably are, yes. It's certainly not the way that the CMA have categorized markets in this is not non-standard, but it's a different way. The way that they focused, as you say, on a particular entertainment product is quite unique. But then again, one could argue that Call of Duty is quite unique in the gaming industry as an entertainment product. So I get what you're saying, and I think there is, Microsoft will have some confidence, a sliver of it, what I would think at this point, until they get back in the kind of room with the CMA, as it were, that they could maybe convince them that a really stringent, tightly drafted behavioral undertaking in relation to Call of Duty would remedy the kind of ailments that the CMA think this deal would have. There isn't anything that's analogous that the CMA, to my knowledge, have reviewed before, but they review lots of mergers, right? Some slightly similar, some very dissimilar. And the problem that Microsoft have is, if you look at the entire historic cadence of CMA cases that go to phase 2 and then that go to a remedy scenario like this, where the CMA is saying, this kind of these structural remedies, there's prohibition outright if you don't, if we don't like anything, and there's behavioral remedies. I think maybe of the last 47 of those cases, one was cleared with behavioral remedies. That was super unique as well. It wasn't anything like this. I can't even remember exactly what the companies were, but they were in a wild industry. So it's just rare, right? It's super, super rare. That's the thing that's difficult for Microsoft. They're batting against history effectively, right? And the CMA's approach to all of this.
Yeah, but to be fair,
history and Sony.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair though, and you said it, this is a very unique situation, and a unique situation probably requires unique ways of handling something this big. This is the biggest deal in gaming history. I would suggest that because of as many tentacles as this thing has, it's going to have to be looked at, which they are, and they have done, with a fine-tooth comb. And, unprecedented challenges, sure, they're here. But I think that to ultimately, look, in your opinion, if they just wanted to block the deal outright and not offer Microsoft a shot at this, could they have ultimately just done that?
No, because they have to make a finding that there's a balance of probability, substantial lessening of competition, and then they will say, here are your remedies. One of the structural remedies is prohibition by the CMA. In fact, that's the one they really like because it just eliminates all risk. Nothing happens.
Well,
So
okay,
Mike,
so Luke,
sorry, go ahead.
Just one question, just one follow up to that. So I think Boom was asking, after they've done this investigation and they've found their SLC, for example, with Facebook and Giphy, did they give them an option for a structural remedy separately from prohibition? So what we're asking is sort of, if they find an SLC and they found that they wanted to block it after they found that, wouldn't they just say that, or do they always present these separate options?
Yeah, no. So you do phase 1, you get a notice that says we think there's potential for an SLC, right? It goes to phase 2. Phase 2 happens, and you get to this point where the CMA say, right, we've investigated phase 2. Here are our findings. Our findings are that we think it's likely that if we let this go through with nothing, there's a substantial lessening of competition. Therefore, we have considered some remedies that you could implement. Here they are. You might also come to us afterwards and ask, and negotiate with us and propose some other remedies. It's not until they publish the final report, which I think for this is in April, that they then say, right, now we're implementing something, right? So, for example, nothing happens. Microsoft can't propose any remedies to CMA 1 in this time period, right after phase 2 has been done right now, up until April. CMA won't consider any more remedies. Microsoft won't, give them the remedies they want or won't propose any more. CMA say, right, final report, we're prohibiting the deal. It's done. If it was behavioral or some divestiture, obviously there would be some undertakings that happen between now and the final report. And then in the final report, it says the remedies agreed upon are X. So this is what happens, right? So in Facebook Giphy, they did exactly the same. So they said phase 2, it was slightly different because obviously Facebook had already purchased Giphy. But they said, we've done our phase 2. We think there's a substantial lessening of competition, or there's likely to be. Your remedy here is to divest Giphy. They commented on behavioral remedies as well, but they said they're just not appropriate in this scenario because you've already purchased the entity. The thing here is they've kind of done the same, because I understand they've talked about the access remedy and stuff, and clearly that's something they've considered. But the issue is, then later in the document, they say that a behavioral remedy alone, they do not think is sufficient for, or like the primary source of a remedy in this matter, right? So they do leave it kind of open to say maybe we could accept a behavioral remedy with something else, right? Like with a structural remedy, but their onus is very much on, we think the structural remedies, the remedies that you should choose.
This is my last question because I want everybody else to get a shot at you for a second. So is there a world where one of the solutions is for Microsoft to fund the sort of enforcement arm of this, or the meaning, okay, it's costly to verify that you are keeping your word on this access remedy. So we have to now employ people and have a division that does that. And they say, well, Microsoft is going to cost us this much money. We don't want to pay tax pay $1, so you pay that, and then that's sort of a way around the idea of it being too complicated, right? So basically, you kind of extract a little extra money from Microsoft to help with the enforcement.
Yeah, so you mean some behavioral remedy where the administration element is effectively also done by someone that Microsoft has paid for. Is that what you mean?
I think what he means is-
yeah.
So the Microsoft pays it, so the UK government doesn't foot the bill, but they
pick the
structure
people.
it. It's not like Microsoft picks the people
To enforce a
yes.
contract, for example.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stuff like that. To be honest, I think the CMA would expect that anyway. They wouldn't foot the bill for that. They would say, okay, we accept your 10-year Call of Duty contract, whatever. Now you will tell us how you'll enforce that and how you will keep on perpetually enforcing it until the end. So Microsoft would have to present to them something. Usually that's in the form of ongoing disclosure requirements, on a X month basis or an X yearly basis about what's going on, and reporting obligations, much like you'd find for a regulated entity, right? That you have to make consistent.
Oh, he's gone again.
Got out again.
Oh,
Lost
sorry.
him. Oh, he's back.
Yep.
So strange. Sorry, the tech is being
Yeah.
weird tonight. Hopefully that's okay. But yeah, no, your point. I think the CMA would expect it anyway.
Okay.
All
All right.
So
That's all I got for now.
Yeah, no, good stuff. One Bad Mother. Let's get you in here, brother. You have anything you want to specifically discuss with Luke regarding the? Because we were talking as well.
Yeah.
I understand Luke. This is what he does for a living, folks. He's an attorney. He has gone up against the CMA. He has worked with the CMA. He is from the UK, if you don't know, and that's why we have him here today. And he has experience in this particular situation. I like a lot of people think that this is a very unusual case simply because of the size of it. Who knows what's going to happen? I think Microsoft is going to throw everything but the kitchen sink, and maybe even the kitchen sink at this deal to get it done. But we'll see. What are your thoughts on this? So, what do you want to particularly ask Luke, One Bad Mother?
Yeah, I mean, so some good insight for sure. And kind of getting back to that point, one of the things that that stands out to me about this deal in general is that there's so many unprecedented things, right? Like, I think it is unprecedented times. I mean, and a lot of the regulatory bodies. I mean, we know that they are trying to take a stance, like a public stance, political stance. Over here in the U.S., like listening to a lot of the investors, the analysts, in terms of the case here, like they don't think the FTC's case is going to fare very well in U.S. courts. I think even some of the similar thoughts with the EU, that if it went that route, that it probably wouldn't fare that well in the courts. And the wild card has always been the CMA because they don't have the same recourse, I guess. And I'm sure Luke can expound on this, but you can't just challenge it in court. I'm wondering if you can kind of delve into that a little bit later. But the one thing that I do emphasize, and it's kind of like been my I guess square since this whole thing began, and just a prediction, but based off of 50 years of history, there really hasn't been a vertical merger blocked, right? And I think, and when, Luke listed off the odds there, I mean, obviously that sounds really daunting for anybody to come in there and think you're going to be number two in what, like the 8 years that the CMA's, since it's been formed. But this is everything about this case is unprecedented. The fact that they defined it as a vertical merger, not a horizontal merger. And I was always really concerned. Like, I think today, like a lot of people that were really low on the chances of something getting done were thinking, with some of the recent reports that came out that there's multiple people that were, that wanted this, that had concerns about this acquisition. I kind of assumed that, Jim was able to build up a bit of a coalition, and and the CMA were able to build up a bit of a coalition of gaming companies, developers that are basically very concerned about Game Pass, because that's been one of the things that I think even listening to some of the early on and analysis about this is the thought was that if there's going to be a real shot at blocking this initially, it was going to be on the subscription, on a nascent market, on something that like and even if we a lot of times we point to Sony, but Sony can probably bring in a lot of developers that would say, hey, we are actually concerned for our own business. We even had Ed Freeze on Xbox Era, a few months back, and he said, he now does investment in gaming companies and works with gaming companies, and he says he's concerned, right? Like he's opposed to it, and I really thought that was like if they were really out here to block the deal, I thought that would have been like the play, like because that's the one you really can't work around. If you're Microsoft, there's like if there's because I don't know how it ever makes sense to go through with the deal if there's like basically like, well, you can't grow that, you can't take that kind of lead in this type of service. But they defined Game Pass in the traditional market kind of as one of the same, like they're just substitutes for each other. And I thought that was a pretty big win for Microsoft. Now, I think most people, I think where a lot of people are really low on this is, the preference of the CMA is structural remedies. That's been the history of them. I think most people didn't even really expect a behavioral remedy to be on the table. And I guess this is where my question goes, because I was reading, because I didn't find these myself, by the way. Like there's people way more obsessed than me that have more free time that have been digging up old cases and really kind of like going through some of those. And usually like when I've been seeing these behavioral remedies sort of like be an option on the table, it's almost like they are, but they aren't. It's like, you can offer them, but we don't think they're going to work. Like they come out flat out and say like, this really like structural is the way to go. And they really have a different tone. And there's been some comparison even by people, lawyers and stuff like that, kind of comparing some of the parsing the language on it. And it is different language. It is more of a door open. And I'm just curious, like Luke, are people misreading that? Are we just, are they cherry picking some of them, I guess maybe is what I could ask you. Or did you see that language for the behavioral remedies was a little bit more open than what you maybe have seen on average in the past?
You're muted or
muted.
I don't hear you, brother. I don't know what's going on. Of
Now,
course, the one day,
the
one day that we need him to be here, and he's here, someone is killing his mic.
It's the CMA, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, look, if you want to jump out and jump back in and see if that might help the particular situation, we'll do that. We'll get to him. Geet, let's bring you in on the conversation. One Bad Mother and Everborn and Luke have been knocking it out of the park. Just interested to get your hot take on this, because you've been watching this with a fine eye, like we all have. Yeah. Do you think that because of how big this deal is, and because how unprecedented this deal is, do you think that that we might see some sort of unusual movement or behavior from the CMA to get what they want in regards to their concerns for European gamers, and at the same time allow for this deal to go through? Because there's a lot of things that are really good about this deal. Xbox Game Pass being one of the best values in gaming, that was originally a concern that has been removed from all scripture, which is one of their finer points, and that's a really big deal, because that could have been a problem. The console market, I don't think you have to be a marketing manager to see that Sony has an unbelievable grip in that region, whether it's with Call of Duty, without. What are your thoughts on the potential of this deal being blocked versus it actually going through?
So that's an interesting point right there, is that you read the document and they totally just gloss over and ignore the fact that Sony has a stranglehold on their market. They note it and they just say whatever. It's like, well,
They also
what do you
gloss
mean?
over and ignore Nintendo.
Whatever. Right, they entirely do that, of course, and I suppose they see it as a lot of Activision games aren't there, though there are enough on there that you really shouldn't just dismiss Nintendo. And who knows what the next console will bring, and maybe they are a good platform for everything, right? So, not to mention cloud potentials for them, right? But the fact that they just totally ignore that, I'm not sure why that is, right? So, is that just to make a bloody case, or because they are near 70%, which in the UK is a monopoly. And so they're trying to protect that and saying, oh, Microsoft is going to compete against them and take away their market share. That's what you want. Like, that's what you want. Why would you not want that? That's exactly what you should be expecting it and hoping to happen, right? But, all right, so, like, they've been trying to make that case, both ABK and Microsoft, that, look, like, we should be trying to do that, but we're still going to give them the bloody game anyway.
Right.
So is it possible? Yes, it is still possible that they can come up with a remedy that works, that they can, work through. But, my answer to this is do the nuclear option and just say, we're not going to make Call of Duty from here and henceforth forever, and to hell with it. Right.
Yeah.
Because for some stupid reason, this one game has become this quintessential stupid. And if Luke were here, I would ask him this question. Like, if one music like label were to buy another one, and they have like this massive artist, would there be some regulatory requirement that artist must be able to put stuff on somebody else's label? Like, I am totally befuddled by this idea that Call of Duty, a game, is required to be on somebody else's console. I don't even get that. Like,
well, how about I take it another
matter?
step further, Hargeet? If Activision tomorrow, let's say absent this deal, they said we can't make COD anymore.
Yeah.
Do they now need to go for government subsidies because this is a required input in the industry, and the whole industry will shut down without it?
It's like, what in what world are we? I don't even understand. Like,
well, we have to understand it's not. These aren't like a lot of times. Well, and I'd be curious if there's any pushback on this, but I've been listening to a lot of people outside of our bubble. I usually like to try to do that, to get outside, the gamers and the people that, say things that I'm, used to hearing. But it seems like it seems to be pretty it's pretty accepted that this is really these are politically driven decisions.
Yeah.
And politically driven decisions don't necessarily need precedent. I mean, we know this, right? If anybody's been paying attention to the world in the last decade, when you make political decisions, don't need precedent. They don't need facts. They don't even need statistics. They need feelings. And and you need to get a group of people behind you, and that's
Willing
what these
pitchfork participants.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they have that.
Yeah.
So big tech is one of the few things. Big tech being bad is one of the few things that does unite Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. and it unites parties across the world. So it is a thing that, and everybody, and like me listening to all these different analysts are saying, all these groups, agencies want to be the first to basically show that they have got the reins around big tech. And Microsoft, picked the wrong time to make the biggest gaming purchase and one of the biggest purchases just in general of all time. But like when they're looking back at precedent, like you just keep going back even to recent precedent, there really isn't precedent. That's why they say if this goes to the courts, there's really nothing to hold this block together
in the
courts.
U.S., right?
Yeah, in the U.S., because it's not, there really isn't a precedent on this. And I think because of that, and that's why, I guess what I was trying to get at with Luke, and I hope I get to hear a little bit more, because, again, when I first heard the news, I think I was probably, like what Boom was saying, it was like, oh, okay, that's, this looks like it's probably done. But the more you kind of delve into it, and the other thing I kind of like look at, as somebody, I'm not a lawyer, but who deals with people, you kind of like watch people's reactions. When the FTC stuff came out there, I think that blindsided them. You could tell because everybody from Microsoft and Activision, who they couldn't put the stamp on their Twitter, was out there blasting the FTC because I think they were blindsided by that. They expected that not to to happen. They thought that was going to be a 2-2 and going to go through. This time, I mean, even you see Lulu, like Lulu's been chill, and I think Lulu's usually
Lulu
not
Chang,
chill.
yeah.
She has not been chill. So this feels like, this does feel like something Microsoft was expecting. And the fact that it doesn't look like there's any signals or signs that they're going to pull out makes me think that and just like Luke was saying, he said like they knew this is coming. I don't know. It just the kind of reading the air a little bit on this. I don't know how else to put it. It does feel like they do see a way to go on this, right? And does that mean like Microsoft is going to do something, like willing to do something crazy? I don't know. Like, cause they could just close this deal and then sell off Call of Duty. Because if you look in there as one of the structural, I think that's a structural solution to that. They could buy all of Activision Blizzard, sell off Call of Duty and some of the studios, and still keep everything else. That's still, I still think Blizzard BK is still the most important thing to Microsoft in this deal.
I'd say sell COD and with Sledgehammer, and then keep the rest.
I mean, you
Infinity Ward and Treyarch.
But
that's the thing. I don't know who's going to buy it for the many billions.
Well, but you could do something like I'm saying and simply sell off the IP. Don't even sell a studio.
No, you can sell. Yeah, we're getting rid of the IP.
To Embracer. Who cares? For like $10 million.
And trade it for IDOS.
Right.
No, listen to what Higgy just said. Sell it to them for $1 million. 10 years later, buy Embracer. Problem
exactly.
solved. Yeah. Like right now, you could just get rid of it.
It eliminates the entire argument because then COD will be gone.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Sony will die, right? We'll write the epitaph. We'll see the RIP Sony, right? Oh,
to me, that was the best. Like for Microsoft, that had to be the best thing though, because if right now all the focus is on a single game. If this was blocked based on Game Pass, and they did mention cloud, so we got to see how, but it's all tied to Call of Duty, right? It's all based on one single game. So it really does open up, I think, more options than people thought they would have. Like there's more ways to go, more ways to negotiate or figure out a deal here. And I do think like when you look at how, if Microsoft keeps pushing this in the EU and the US, they're going to get. Most people think like 95% certainty they'd get this through the courts if they push those routes, right? EU doesn't even look like they're going to take it there. So I think if Microsoft leaves the UK out on that hill, like I mean, that's just going to be really interesting to kind of see what happens there.
Yeah, that is another option, right? Is that they could just pull either Call of Duty or all of Xbox out of the UK.
They could, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Xbox being out of the UK is going to kind of suck. But
you know what, though? What kind of market share do they have in the UK to begin with?
Not that much. Less than 30%.
Then you go scorched earth policy. Right?
Yeah. It's several million consoles, something like that.
What did Sony do? Consoles. What did Sony do to trim the fat when it came to the development teams? Pulled their teams out of Japan because it was the weakest part of their division, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. They pulled their offices out of Japan and they put them back in the U.S. And well, they put them not back. They brought them to the U.S. from Japan, and it was unprecedented.
And that's because that's where they were making the bacon, baby. They're making it in the United States. They weren't making it in Japan. And so they said, you know what? Hey, it's an unpopular opinion, but it's one that's possible. Because then you can get to that point. I mean, look, what do we have over there?
You're right, man. Because if they're left with no options, they will go with nuclear options. That's what
I'm saying. Because you can make up those options in different markets, and eventually, maybe there could be some kind of a remedy down the road where they're going to have to bend the knee, and they're going to say, you know what? We have to, because at this point. But the thing is, if you crack other markets on the cloud level, for example, countries like India, countries like Africa, countries like South Asian countries that don't, well, India is South Asian, but you know what I'm saying. Those kind of places that do not have a market hold, but they also are not big on the consoles, especially American consoles, let's face it. But if they have cloud access with proper internet and servers, that is where they can make up the losses of something like the UK. And like I said, it sucks for the UK, but hey, it is what it is. It'll just be maybe those IPs that they will not be able to get outside of that, outside of the Game Pass ecosystem, let's say, right?
Well, let the UK regulators play.
Can I add something
explain that to their customers?
And can't you just still buy it for full price?
Let me add a small nugget into this, and that will assist in this conversation of whether they should pull out or not. I think the whole thing is super interesting.
Pause.
Always good to practice the rhythm method.
Yeah, there you go.
But Evan
Children
and I
buy
were
your
having a
condoms.
conversation about this, and we thought it was kind of hilarious. So
Not about
it isn't-
pulling out. We weren't.
No,
having-
definitely not about that. No,
Not that kind of show.
not that type of show. No, we thought it was interesting because at the end of the day, right? They even kind of gave Game Pass a backhanded compliment in the documents, and then
They
kind
did,
of slapped,
yes.
slapped Xbox gamers in the UK in doing so, saying, and I'll paraphrase because Everborn most likely has all the document in front of him. But basically, in one document, they speak to the fact that they would consider behavioral remedies if it had an outright like big good effect on the consumer base in the UK, right? And then the other side, they say, well, because of a Game Pass, they do see that would be a benefit for consumers. But then in another part of the document, they then acknowledge that although all that exists, it's still not good enough to outshine the fact that it would lessen competition to Sony. So it's kind of like, yeah, we see you, Xbox. We see you have gamers here. We see that would help them, but that's not good enough. Screw you
also,
in favor of the other guy.
Let me read that actual.
75% of the people, when asked by the CMA, agreed, saying that the deal was good and would benefit gamers.
Well,
75%,
you're not even
people
saying
have voted.
75% of the people. 75% of PlayStation gamers said this.
By the way,
Not just
if you guys want to
PlayStation
read that,
PlayStation
you can
gamers, right?
you can go to the
Fair
CMA
point.
site. They've actually published the survey, so
Yeah,
you
all
can see
of it,
exactly what people said.
Okay,
in each
so
questionnaire.
what is the problem here? My question is, and this was something for Luke Steele, who's clearly having some massive technical issues. My quick question. Sorry, I'm kind of butting myself in here.
No. Listen,
my thing-
first, let me just say this: we have 750 people in the chat.
That
that
is
is a
huge.
record
Phenomenal.
for this show.
Again,
We
Hit
are
that like button,
we are,
people.
Yeah,
Hit
we
the
are.
button.
We
It's
are.
right there. Hit it.
We're moving into the dealer, dealer gaming, Colt Eastwood and Randall Thor territory. I'm beyond words, humbled. This is a small show. I've only been doing YouTube for 5 years, and we've built a nice. And we're guess what, folks? We are 200 and change away from 12K. Now I don't know if we have 200 new people here, but if you'd like to help us get there, it would be greatly appreciated. But Mag, please continue.
Okay, here's my quick question. And by the way, I've been on this show for 3 years now. We've been grinding away, plugging away, and it is an absolute pleasure to see this many people come check us
Thank
out
you,
live.
sir.
You know what I mean? It means a lot to us, and like a lot of us OGs here. We got Kay Asante, Everborn, myself, Crispy. Actually, Crispy was after, and then obviously Boom, who runs the show. It's been awesome, man. And I gotta say,
Shout out to Forte, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Jamie
that's
Forte,
right. That's right.
Tempest's son was a founding father, good friend of this
Cybernox,
program.
too.
Cyber, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's right. And then it's funny how it changed over time, right? Like it's the faces have changed, but hey, the heart of primetime gaming is still here, and the fact that we got this many people broke another record tonight. Didn't we just break another record a few weeks ago? It's fantastic. But anyway,
Yeah.
Let's get into this idea here. Is that I was thinking to myself that they have it's basically just a curiosity, okay, or an inquiry. What possible, and this is something I'm actually going to ask everybody, what possible findings could they have that would be considered anti-consumer when you consider, for example, the things that they have laid out, like their concerns about price raising? That would be borderline impossible at this point because the prices have just been raised
Right.
to $70 American, $100
Nintendo
Canadian.
just raised the price
Right.
of Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Don't
70
get me
bucks.
started.
Oh, by the way, for Americans, Amazon, I think, has a deal right now on Tears of the Kingdom. So if you want to buy it, I think they still have it discounted before the price rise. I
Now-
just saw it like 10 minutes ago.
Now, Mag, how
Yes.
serendipitous is it that on the day the CMA says Nintendo is an allowed monopoly, that they turn around and raise their prices?
And then
to
they raise
$70?
the
And then they go see this abacus. Now you paying $70 for its games.
Yeah.
Right.
Because guess what? We don't count.
Suck.
We can do whatever we want.
Right? So that's my thing. My thing is here. Now, the thing is, now, what they're basing these fears or concerns on, to me, are nothing but hearsay and conjecture because they're things that they say, well, they
You
could
mean they heard Jim Ryan say it?
Right. And like I said, hearsay and conjecture does not equal fact. And that's what I have a problem with. My problem is they say, well, they could do this. There's no logical reason for these things to happen. I understand that they would have the power to do so, but it doesn't mean that they would be able to do it That's my thing. Like, for example, they brought up the console exclusivity. Like, am I the only one who's not bashing my head against the wall saying they literally told you what they want to do to?
Well, Mag,
Like,
they said
I
console
don't-
exclusivity on World of Warcraft, which tells me you don't know what you're talking about in the first place, because World of Warcraft cannot run on a console right now.
They also
neither here nor
said
there.
that cloud
Exactly.
gaming could lead to the increase in price in high-end consoles.
Another reason they don't
Cloud
know what
gaming.
they're talking about,
Well,
because
that's the
cloud
thing.
gaming actually allows for potatoes to run games, not the opposite.
Exactly. That's where I could you be exactly the point, and that is
You know.
exactly
Is that the
Microsoft's point.
Series S?
Think about the countries like I just mentioned. Yeah, right. Think about the countries I was just mentioning. That some people are still rocking a 360 or an Xbox One like VCR or whatever, and it's no fault of their own. They just don't have the accessibility or the money to do so. Microsoft is giving them the option to do so, and they're being stymied by the CMA, and I don't get it. I don't understand. And then, like I said, the only other thing was the exclusivity. They said, well, we offered it. Nintendo and Steam have both said, yep, we're on board. We're all good. The drama queens, Sony, are holding out. And that's the only reason why that thing is still considered a concern, is because Sony has not agreed to it. And
Well,
I think
that's the thing to remember. Yeah, because none of the remedies have been like, this is not the point where they consider the remedies, right? This is just where everything that they're putting out there is without the 10-year deal.
They
on the
actually
table.
said that though, LWM.
Yeah.
They said that these
why is-
findings have nothing. We know Microsoft offered the deal. We're going to use that information in our remedies aspect of the deal.
Okay,
They actually
okay.
said that. Yes.
Okay,
So
fair-
also-
I have to pedal. I'm going to backpedal there because I didn't realize that they had said that. I thought
Yeah,
that they had ignored that entirely.
Matt, real quick, that
Yeah.
is a thing that a lot of folks aren't adding to this. What's coming out, the statements you're reading now are not statements post all of this information. Those are our initial findings, right? We had a conversation with Microsoft, and these are our like phase 2 findings. All those 10-year deals, all those other conversations that are tangentially related, they are not considered until after that document has
Right,
been
and
placed. So
they
that's why they
explicitly laid
matter
that
now.
out. What?
Basically, April then is what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
So
here.
one
Yes.
other
Okay.
thing to
All right.
just consider, like super quickly, this is why I kind of asked that question to Luke about, is there an analogous entertainment object, right? Because when Disney purchased Fox, this would be tantamount to them saying that Avatar is the largest movie of all time, so you have to release it on Netflix. Right?
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
I heard some
So-
lawyers talking about that today.
However,
actually.
Everborn, it's not the same because it doesn't have constant engagement.
No,
Right?
no,
Whereas,
which-
Call of Duty would have
which is
a
fine.
constant revenue stream, right, over years.
What I'm just saying is, when we're talking about content and IP and ownership of IP,
Right.
because that is sort of uncharted territory in terms of using it in this sort of way, and once we actually explain, because if you look at one of the rubrics for why they would consider a behavioral remedy, they say that a divestiture is impossible. Now, the reason a divestiture might be impossible is because Call of Duty is unique in that it comes out every year. It has hundreds of millions of dollars of production budget, and the entire studio is all around that thing every year. And even when we look at the other analogous IPs like that are sort of that large, those aren't released every year, and no one really wants to do that and assume that risk, especially when you don't have the mobile gaming revenue to back you up. So I think Microsoft can make the case about how you can't really divest it because they use the money that they make from Blizzard and King to sort of support the development costs, the super high development costs of COD. And again, it is an entertainment IP. So normally where a behavioral remedy they wouldn't like, for an entertainment IP you can, and it's very easily enforceable to say, hey, they're releasing a new COD. Is that COD on PlayStation? Right? That's it. They released the feature list. Is that there? It is? Okay. That's not that hard to do. That's like a 10-minute check once a year.
Yep.
Well, and Everborn, I think that's a big point too. Like that's actually a really great call out because, part of, if you're trying to put this all together, and you're in, that the section where they basically say, hey, they will only consider the behavior remedies as a primary source if the divestiture or prohibition is not feasible. And we know, like, if you just sold the Call of Duty IP to somebody and they don't get the processes, the studios, they don't get the whole shebang that comes with that, all the backup studios, the fact that this is basically, you have thousands of people developing, it is a carefully, they're having a hard time sustaining as it is. And they've been doing this over, for a long time.
Which is the reason they're selling.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, if you gave this a Take-Two and you just gave them some of the studios, like this, the IP, the quality of the IP, the amount of content you're going to get out of this IP, all that stuff is going to decrease. So it's probably not feasible, and that is why I believe. Now, again, this is my belief, and I would have loved to hear Luke, because he definitely has more perspective than I do. But just kind of logically trying to put some of this stuff together, why I think this feels different than the other ones. Because let me just read a couple of them. So a couple of the ones that were snipped that were basically phase 2, they kind of pushed back. CMA says, in our notice of possible remedies published alongside our provisional findings, we have set out our initial view that the only effective way to address the competition issues would be for SSS business to be sold by to a suitable purchaser. We would consider other practical remedies that the parties or interested parties may propose that could be effective in addressing. And so they basically throw that out there. It's basically if you read it, it says, in our view, the only effective way, emphasize, only effective way to address it is this. We'll consider the other stuff, but really, we're telling you that this is probably the only way it's going to get done. When you read through this one here, it's just a different language. It is more open.
They give you an avenue. They literally say the way we would look at it is through a means of access.
Yeah,
right.
And
they don't spell that out in other deals. So
that's never been done in any of the deals prior to that, where they're saying, "Hey, listen, this is what we're looking for." I think that no Microsoft is going to make a move to make it everywhere. Real quick update on Luke: his mic is gone. He was going to try and join through the phone, but the phone is just not good. So I know he's probably listening. Luke, don't sweat it, brother. We will get you back on the next time. And thanks for joining us. But I think that, and again, I'm a podcaster. I don't have a law degree. I know law, but it's criminal law. It's not business law. I appreciate the knowledge when Luke was here. This again, I know there's a lot of people that are getting on him. Don't get on the dude. He's being honest.
Don't get on him. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
he is a lawyer. He does this for a living. He understands. He has worked with and against the CMA in his career. When I tell you he was brought here specifically because of his knowledge.
Yeah.
The guy is not a boob guy, folks. I know we don't agree. I don't agree. I don't like what he's, for everything he's going to say, and that's life. But you got to respect the knowledge and the profession. Doing it for over 20 years, the guy knows his stuff. I think, look, at the end of the day, none of us actually know. Even Luke Steele, no. He gives you his opinion. He says, "This is what I think." Traditionally, this has happened, but this is a very untraditional.
We're in uncharted waters.
We are.
Oh, by the way, Gaz, all sales are final.
Yeah, I was laughing because Gaz wants a refund because there's no hentai in your comic books, which is hilarious, and of course that's just Gaz. So
me and Gaz are going in the DMs talking about Jim Ryan deserves the opposite of a peace prize. He deserves some kind of award.
No, Jim Ryan deserves a raise. I'm sorry, he played Microsoft and these regulators like a fiddle. I'm sorry. What it is terrible.
He earned his money. I'm not gonna
Luke
lie.
is back.
Let's see if we get Luke in here. Hold on.
Listen. Hats off to Luke first of all, and then Jim Ryan. Because Jim Ryan, I'm sorry, you can love him or hate him. That man
he's doing
is
his job,
an assassin.
And he's doing his job. What is he doing? He's protecting his own. And
yes,
as he should.
As he should. And he's doing a damn good job. But you can't deny that.
Listen,
and he is throwing cogs in that wheel like you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, he's throwing cards, not cards.
Oh!
COD. He's throwing COD. Yeah, you see what I
Ba-dum,
did there. Boom, boom. Listen, I first of all, Luke Skill, welcome back. I want to bring Crispy Bomb and Hargeet, and I want to bring everyone and Kayasante back in here, but the super chats have been ridiculous.
Oh, yeah,
so I
so
do
many
have
of
to
them,
catch
yeah.
up on them, folks. Just bear with me. The first one is a channel member for over a month. I don't know who it is, Kayasante. I don't see the name, but whoever it was, and I will shout you out. Finally played Vampire Survivors, which is, and he says it's awesome. Although all the flashing gave me a headache. On top of the headache, Twitter gave me #Hellscape. Yeah, Twitter sucked today. I'll tell you that. Shooter, good friend of the program. On the other side of the world in Australia, he drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, Mrs. Boom, Hargeet, Crispy, Kay Asante, and Everborn. Quick message from my hospital bed. Oh, my God." He says his pacemaker is in, all going well. Hope this finds you well. Listen, prayers to you, brother. I can't believe.
Why are you watching us, dude?
Why are you watching us? And you can't get excited. And this is an excitable topic. Shooter, we love you. Thank you for all the support, and obviously, thank God you got your ticker fixed, and it's all going well. He actually drops another super chat of $5. Shout out to the latecomers, Mag and OBM, and hi all community members. I mean, this guy is from his
prayers to
medical
you, brother. Prayers to you, brother, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. We also have DeAndre Banks, good friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Why are regulators telling a company your $68 billion purchase can go through, but get rid of one of the priorities that makes money? That is ridiculous." Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I kind of like the scorched earth thing. Oh, you don't want to pass it? Okay, you tell your customers. Your consumers in the UK that why you can't play Call of Duty. Sorry, we're just not going to put it out here. Tough titty, but whatever. They'll get it done. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Greetings, Boom and panel. Sell Call of Duty to Embracer Group. Finish acquiring ABK. Once that's done, then acquire Embracer Group." Around the back door. I love it. Void Lock, who's been a channel member for 1 month. Thanks so much for that, dude. He says Hogwarts Legacy, he's Ravenclaw, would have buried God of War if it stick to its release date. Hit the like button. Yeah, I'm telling you, folks, Hogwarts is crack cocaine, because I stayed up to 2:30 in the morning yesterday playing it. And I got the stink
He's
eye.
an old
Mrs.
man,
Boom.
too. People.
Yeah, and I'm an old man. I
man.
got the stink eye. Mrs. Boom gave me the stink eye when I came, and she goes, "It's 2:30. We have to get up early." And well, that's why I'm tired today. But it's my own fault. Gerald Mack, who's been a channel member for 1 year, drops a $2 super chat and says, "Did the CMA not know about the 10-year deal offer?" They did. It's not part of their investigation. Like everyone said, they have to put forth their concerns for Microsoft to then address the concerns, which they're doing right now as we speak. Brett Bingham dropped a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Sony and Jim Dale Ryan probably clenched them cheeks when their regulators finally demand them to show those third-party exclusive documents, which they're still waiting for." And I don't know if it's going to happen with that, but that's BS. MMM Midnight drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "If the deal got blocked and Activision decided to sell the Call of Duty IP to Microsoft, could they block that?" I don't know, honestly. I don't know how that would. It'd be a fire sale potentially, and then at that point, they got to make money. Brett Bingham drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "What about that survey that was put out where 75% of participants were positive towards the ABK deal? Will that or Sony's third-party exclusive influence it? It should have influenced it in the deal being passed, but maybe that's why they're offering these concessions or these remedies as it's in the UK." Yeah, you want to say something, Case, something?
Yeah, quickly, Boom. The first super chat was from Stuff Sean. Great.
Stuff Sean, what's up, brother?
Yes,
thank you so
absolutely.
much. Yes, thank you so much for being a channel member, Stuff Sean. Definitely appreciate that. John Wolf, hey John, what's going on, brother? He says he drops a $5 super chat and says, "Jim Crying Ryan played us all like Hollywood Hogan. He will buy the Call of Duty IP and resign from Sony. This was his master plan all along." That is hilarious.
Magnum opus, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I said this on Twitter. Like, I feel like the CMA wants them to divest Call of Duty to Sony. That's
not?
kind of what it feels like.
Nothing would be stranger from the truth. But LeBron98 dropped a very generous $5 super chat and says, trading the Call of Duty IP to Embracer for Eidos and Crystal D was the master plan all along. I like that. Viper XT drops a $5 super chat and says, sell off Call of Duty IP, keep the studios, and bring back Soldier of Fortune done by the Call of Duty studios. That would be dope. The Dreadful Sean drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if they sell off Call of Duty to get the deal to close, does Sony have an opportunity to purchase it? I that would be crazy. But stranger things.
Sony couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it, probably.
Can I just throw an idea out there to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
If they did divest, my preference would be to divest it to EA and put it under Vince Zampella.
Yeah, that would
and let EA run it, because they've proved they have the core competencies to release a game every year, right? And
they'll kill off the other shooter that no one talks about.
Battlefield. And then Microsoft can keep Treyarch and Infinity Ward and put them on Halo.
Yeah.
And I just want to read this one thing about behavioral remedies. It's only going to take 2 seconds. Access remedies are a form of behavioral remedies which seek to maintain and restore competition by enabling competitors to access on appropriate terms to the products and facilities of the merger entity that they require to maintain to remain competitive. Access remedies normally require an access commitment, which is set out in a significant detail so that both customers and monitoring agencies can enforce compliance effectively. In this case, an access remedy would look to ensure third-party access to Activision Blizzard Inc.'s content that is necessary to remedy the provisional SLCs. So they've literally laid out exactly what it looks like, and that sounds like a 10-year deal to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like
that's the language from their suggested remedies.
Right.
But doesn't somewhere in it as well, they also say they don't think that behavioral remedies might be appropriate here?
No, yeah. And that's the other thing. So I did want to ask Luke this, and that's my last thing, because I'm going to have to go soon. My kid's waiting for me to do his homework with him before he goes to bed. But so something else that's been brought up, and again, like hearing people parse this all day, one of the things that gets brought up is that, when they mention those structural remedies, they don't say those are the only structural remedies. We know that they do prefer to have a structural remedy, and I think they like to keep that precedent, right? So I was listening on one show for like the analysts, and they were basically saying like something you could do is, create a subsidiary, or like you could have the Call of Duty IP be kind of managed by a third party, whatever. Like there is like, I guess, a way to kind of thread that needle where they can say, hey, we're doing some structural things and distribution is controlled by somebody else that's not us, whose job is just to make sure it stays profitable. So they still get the profits from it, but they don't get to say where that thing goes. And that's just going to be the structure of that company going forward. So I've heard all these different things, and I guess I throw that out there because I'm wondering, just again, seeing kind of the body language of Microsoft Activision after today compared to where it was after the FTC thing, it feels like that we're getting like the sense from them that they think there's a way to go. So I'm wondering if Luke thinks that could be some combined with some behavioral remedies, would that maybe be something that might be on the table for them?
Now,
well, first of all,
sorry, go ahead, Luke.
No, hopefully you can hear me. It's not going to be as good as last time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You'll have to deal with a nondescript brown circle, but as a picture.
Okay, brother. Listen, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, Everborn, do you want to go on? Then maybe I can also.
Just really quickly, because there are some other creative ways around structural remedies that I was just like brainstorming, and there's this idea that Microsoft could could basically offload the publishing of Call of Duty in the UK. So structurally, they could not publish that game, but a third-party publisher could publish it in that region. So that effectively takes the power away from them and sort of guarantees that the game will be, available to whoever that publisher does business with.
Yeah.
Are you asking that's an option? Is that
no? Because remember, other structural remedies or behavioral remedies can be suggested, and I wouldn't be surprised if the CMA is not moved by behavioral remedies. That's an option that's on the table, which would still allow Microsoft to keep the data, which is really why I think they want this.
So allow somebody else to publish it in the UK. So then it effectively takes it out of their hands.
Yes, because look at what CD Projekt Red does, right? Like Warner Brothers publishes the game in some regions, and Bandai Namco could publish it in another region.
Interesting. Okay, Blue, please. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought process. It would be. I think the problem would be that is that an adjunct to a divestiture? Like, is the end result similar to a divestiture? Presuming the CMA, that's the kind of end result they want, or something like that. I don't know if it is. I mean, on the one that you were saying, Mother one, I don't know who the analyst is, but I think the difficulty with that kind of suggestion is that it doesn't matter in a structure, like say in Microsoft's own structure where they put it, if they set up a new subsidiary and then they put Activision Blizzard underneath that, the ultimate beneficial owner is exactly the same. It's still a Microsoft holding company, therefore they can still drive any decisions straight through the holding structure pyramid, basically. So that wouldn't really do anything because it's still Microsoft's. You could, I guess, in theory, because I was thinking about this earlier, I was like, how would you do something like that? And one option is you could maybe bestow it on a trustee to hold on trust for you. But the problem is that if you do that, who does the trustee act for? Well, they act in the best interest of the beneficiary, and the beneficiary would still be Microsoft. So they still have a way in which to, influence stuff like that. Not that I think Microsoft would start to engage in input foreclosure or anything like that, but the problem is for the CMA's purposes, when they're analyzing this stuff, like they would still think, well, it makes no difference because ultimately people are still doing things for Microsoft. Microsoft have a final say.
So a quick question, Luke, about that. Just a quick question. Just a quick aside. If at the end of the day, right, it like this idea of a subsidiary being set up just for that purpose for the UK, so that it would be obscuring Microsoft's controlling interest. If ultimately all they get is the proceeds from that, would that meet the requirement, or the proceeds even going to Microsoft also adds to why they don't want that? Does the money matter, or is it just the influence?
It's not the money, it's the structure, because ultimately if you're looking at what CMA's ideal remedy is divestiture. Why is it divestiture or prohibition? Why is it divestiture or prohibition? That's because if Microsoft don't have any control, any influence over the asset like they do now, right, then there's no risk. There's no material risk that there's a substantial lessening of competition. Even if, I would imagine, I'm just speaking for the CMA here, but I promise Jim Ryan's not in my ear, but even if Microsoft were to just have a structure where they would only, it would be way down the chain, and all they would get from this is, publishing profits, and they would have an independent board, operating beneath the holding company, but intermediate to, whatever this new company is that kind of controls Activision, Blizzard, etc. It's not adjunct to divestiture. It's not the same, right? Because Microsoft could change that any day. Any day they wanted, they could change that. So that's the problem, and that's kind of what some of the problems are with the behavioral remedies. Like, you can put something in place, you can put an undertaking or a contract in place, But one, it's not forever, and two, you have to build in so many different contingencies to these things, so many different outs, so many different conditions and termination provisions, etc., that there is always a possibility that something happens whereby that kind of thing ends, if you get what I mean. Like that just it ceases to exist. And then you're left in a position where, obviously, for the CMA's perspective, then there's all the incentive in the world for Microsoft to start foreclosing.
So, Luke, what's super this has never gelled well with me about this entire review process is it the best approach for the CMA or any other regulator, but we're talking about the CMA now, to approach these markets, especially this market, as static, as to say, because Call of Duty is big now, it will be and always will be 10 years, 20 years from now, it will be as big and as important to the industry as it is today. And so we need to preserve the market as well as the market share.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Again, a difficult one. I think the difficulty a regulator has, and this is not just the CMA, any other competition regulator, is that when they're analyzing, is something going to be bad for competition, they're kind of between two states. So the one, and you'll see this referred to by the CMA, is the counterfactual, which is just what exists at the present time. So everything that exists at the moment, including Call of Duty being as big as it is. And then the other one is, okay, what happens if we allow this merger to go through? What regulators have to do in this case, I guess, is they have to assume that Call of Duty will be as big now, as big in the future as it is now, or bigger. They can't get into the weeds of thinking, well, maybe in 10 years Call of Duty won't be a giant franchise anymore, because they have absolutely no, the CMA, they're not video game industry analysts, right? They don't know. It's the same for any other entertainment product. They don't know where it's going to go. They just have to gaze into the crystal ball with the evidence they have as best as they can and make a decision. But I will say it is, and not just for Call of Duty, any other entertainment product that the CMA have had to consider, it is a kind of a flawed approach, because as you say, there could be something in 2 years' time that just dwarfs Call of Duty. We don't know. But it's
Halo used to be the biggest IP in gaming.
It did, yeah. Like, Combat Evolved, Halo 2, like that was the big one, right? Now it's not, so things do change. But I think as well, I think the CMA can be or any other regulator can be pretty confident about it still being big, if only because the amount of resources and IP goodwill that game has are just far beyond anything in its genre, right? First person shooters. There isn't, I don't think, unless someone can point me to something, a first person shooter with that much brand recognition, goodwill, consistent sales, sheer workforce and budget dedicated to it year on year out. So I agree, it's a flawed rationale, but it's just a regulator's job, right? It's not unique to the CMA. They're all doing the same thing.
Well, they're all doing the same thing because Sony told them that. So,
well, Jim Ryan can be persuasive with those God of War bundles,
yeah.
Well, listen, let's bring in Crispy. Crispy, you've been hearing the back and forth. What are your thoughts on this? Because, like I said, this is an unprecedented deal. This is an unprecedented time in the world. I think that this deal.
I think one bad mother needs to step out.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to. I got to take off, you guys, real quick. But I just want to thank Luke. Thank you so much for your insight and
no problem.
And all your information and coming here to it kind of in the middle of, I don't know what is this the middle of? It's not the easiest messaging to get kind of to come to bring.
It's super late where he is because it's 5 hours in the UK forward, then hour almost 8:30. So,
but yeah, I appreciate it, man.
In the morning.
Yeah, appreciate you taking our questions and really do appreciate the insight. But and Boom, thanks for inviting me. Everybody else, friends, great to see you.
We'll see you later, brother.
Look forward to seeing you again really soon. Thanks. Take care.
Take care, OBM. See you later, brother.
See you later, brother.
Yes. Take care, OBM. See you later, brother.
Take care.
Take care, OBM. See you later, brother. All right. So, Luke, Luke, I don't know how. Again, I know it's super late, but if you got to bounce, just let me know. And we
No,
would
I'm good.
definitely.
Good,
Okay,
good.
good,
Don't worry.
excellent.
Yeah.
Crispy, let's get your hot take on this, dude. You got a chance to hear everyone's thoughts, theories. What's yours? Do you believe that this deal still gets done simply because of we're in uncharted waters?
So what's weird for me is that, I mean, I hear everybody's thoughts, and I'm kind of like, oh, I get that, and it's kind of like these dominoes fall, and everybody's like, sell it or do something drastic, and I say, how about basically saying, okay, we are going to treat COD exactly like Minecraft,
Which is what they already said, right?
but okay, you signed the contract saying that, and it will. I'm sorry, because like I was one of those people. It's like none of the Call of Duties will ever be on Game Pass. Nothing will ever be on Game Pass from Call of Duty in that one IP. It will never be right at your fingertips, which that's what I love about Game Pass. And you say, we are not going to do this because you told us to. And
I would
they
do
kinda-
billboards with that, Crispy.
and-
I just put it on the billboard. They don't want you to have it.
Well, and
Absolutely,
you really look at like Minecraft has a stipulation in their original contract when they purchased it that it will always be multi-plat, but that doesn't include, freaking Legends and all these other things. You know what I mean? They could make those exclusive because technically they are different from the original IP. And this is where I think these regulators and everybody else don't know what to do, because this is one of the largest purchases that I've ever seen. Okay. There are some that are a little bit more, but not a whole lot. You know what I mean? Or mergers. I mean, they talk like it's a merger, but it's technically not. And Lulu, I mean, she's probably leading the whole team now. You know what I mean? Like she's the only one that I've seen anything really come out of. Like
She's certainly tenacious. I will say that.
Well, I mean, and that's the difference. Like that's where you guys go and say, the UK, Microsoft could be like, you know what? Fine. Don't deal with it. We'll move on. And everybody's like, well, the contract originally stated, and I go and say, like, dude, they can renegotiate on the contract at any time, and they can completely change it at any time and put it in legal documents, and there's nothing you can do about it. So they could say, you know what, UK, fine, you ain't gonna get Call of Duty anymore. Like they could do some wild stuff like that. And yes,
again, it's a scorched earth mentality. But yes, I say listen, at this point, do it.
Just one thing, Luke, I know what you're gonna say. It doesn't really work to say that you can just take Call of Duty. If you go against the UK, they may say you can't do business here at all. That's Windows.
Well, that's why I say,
Everborn, that is impossible. Because if they did that, they would shut down all commerce in that country. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's
They've
not.
They've already admitted that Microsoft is a monopoly with Windows. It is not happening.
And Microsoft doesn't
kind of like
I don't know that Microsoft wants them worrying about them being a monopoly, because
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Every international business that's in the UK
it's one of those weird things. No. It's one of those weird things that we're in a period in a time in Europe, and that's like, I mean, I've said a lot, like I don't hate their takes. I really don't. I feel they're misinformed. And I don't feel like they were attacking what Microsoft does, because I feel like Microsoft has a stability to itself. And even like the Kotek letter, like you really look at it, like kind of sounds like Phil Spencer's talking, bro. Like I'm sorry, like it kind of sounds like Phil was in his ear in some way. Yeah. And it's one of those things, like Microsoft is an influential company, but also like as of late, past like 15 years, I'd say Microsoft ain't a bad company. They own up to their mistakes. They do what they need to do, and they include people. And I think that's important. And I think, we're going through this stretch of them just being like, oh, we have to stop this because it's one of the largest purchases in history. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, do I feel it's I'm more 75% at this point, the way that was worded. And it's one of those things like, Microsoft, they play the game, but there's different leaders there now. And they actually respect us as a community. I've had people call me out that are Xbox executives, okay? And that's something that means something to me, but also I know I'm just a little tiny guy. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things like you got to look at it and say, why is Sony complaining so much? Why can't they? You know what? Just, COD is always and forever third party. And they make the revenue off of it, and they do whatever they want with it. You know what? Warzone always started. We already knew that.
I mean, have a feeling that if this was the shoe on the other foot, and again, this is just me being a fan and just tired of the way the street is just made. It used to be two ways, and now it's one way. And I'm referring to if this was Sony, we would never. If Sony was the one buying, let's say the shoe was on the other foot, I don't even think this is a problem. I don't even think it's a question. I think they passed. Like, okay, no problem.
Well, you know why? Because Microsoft's the trillions and they're in the billions, and it's one of those things like little guy. I mean, I rooted for it. I've been a Chiefs fan for years. Yes, now we're great. Like, look at all the years before. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like I look at Microsoft and I'm like, you guys can get your crap together, but like I want to see a Super Bowl ad. You know what I'm saying? For Redfall, or maybe they just throw Starfield in there. Let's go. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, just throw Starfield in there.
We're going to know in a couple of days whether that's a fact, because it is $7 million for 30 seconds. But what I want to do is...
It's not going to be there. I'm just putting my money down on
I mean, it is Bethesda, so I will see. But Mag, anything you want to add to the conversation? Because you popped in, but I want to get your hot take on it.
Yeah, no, I got everything out of my system pretty quick there. Ironically, while Luke Steele was gone, so my questions were kind of answered by everybody but Luke Steele. So, but no, I pretty much I got everything else. I'm just sort of observing at this point to see what everybody else has got to say. But I pretty much stand firm on what I was saying. Is that I think a lot of it is just again. A lot of it is just hearsay and conjecture at this point, and like I said, we'll see what happens in April. When they actually, list what's going to happen and the remedies or their findings, I should say, and then I'll take it from there. But until then, I'm going to quietly sit and observe. So
no, that's good stuff. Kay Santo, let's get you in on the conversation, brother. I mean, anything you want to ask Luke that he's back, or more specifically, you want to drop your bars here because you did have a lot to say when we were talking early in the day.
Yeah. I honestly think, as with everybody on this panel, I think there's a lot of political motivations back and forth. But for the context of this actual conversation, and I know I've been reading, keeping up with the chat, a lot of hot and heavy conversation going on in there.
Yeah, chat's
so
on
many
fire.
people, by the way. If you're not hitting that like button, please consider doing so. We're breaking records here. Come on,
thank you.
Just hit that like button. But Luke, I would ask you, and I think you've laid it out before, but I would ask just for you to do it again for our new audience here. In the States, and it's actually really funny when you were having your technical issues, we were discussing it. In the States, it's a very interesting juxtaposition where we know, and by and large, even those in your position on the United States side have agreed that if this specific case goes to federal regulators here, federal courts here, our courts, our regulatory bodies wouldn't have a chance in hell getting that thing across the line, right? So it's very interesting how they don't have a chance to get it across the line there, but in the CMA case, it seems like it's open and shut, or presuming that it might be that way, and there might not be as many recourses, right? In the States, obviously, there's recourse abound, right? Microsoft can take another bite at that apple and really like have that conversation with them and fight the fight, as it were. I guess my question is, just to lay it out once more, what potential options in the CMA case for not just Microsoft but in general. A decision is made. What options are available to Microsoft? Is that it? 100%? We're done. Oh well, throw your hands in the air, or are there other potential options available to them?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So you're right. Obviously, the FTC angle is it's a US angle. It's much more litigious generally. So the kind of other places do it a little bit differently. But for the CMA, presuming we get to April, the CMA prohibit it because of whatever reason, right? Let's just assume that happens. Then Microsoft are in pretty bad like the worst trouble they could be in then, because as you've alluded to, the kind of appeals process for the CMA is very limited. I've explained it before, but you have to appeal to an independent body called the Competition Appeals Tribunal. CAT, yeah. And you can only appeal on the basis of something in the UK called a judicial review standard, which is a really high bar, essentially, to be able to appeal and prove something. And the biggest hurdle in that appeal, really, for not just Microsoft, but anybody who wants to do this with the CMA, is that you can't appeal their substantive decision-making, right? You can't say that, well, you came to this conclusion, but that was wrong because we think this. That just doesn't fly here. On the FTC side, obviously, if you get in front of a judge and you present your facts, the judge can effectively have a look at it and go, actually, you know what? I kind of agree with Microsoft, right? I don't think the market is X, or I don't think, your conclusions were right. Not so here. So the judicial review standard is you have to show essentially that the CMA acted irrationally. And I know what people are going to say to that, and it's be like, well, of course they're irrational. Look at the things that they're talking about. But it's the threshold of irrationality is super high. It would be that no other regulator could possibly come to those conclusions, which of course the CMA are now backed up by, because the EU and the FTC have come to adjacent conclusions about the deal, not quite the same, but very similar. So there's irrationality you could prove, or you could try and prove. You can try and prove that the CMA acted illegally. Not going to fly clearly here, unless there's something behind the scenes, which I don't think there is. Or you can try and show that the CMA had some procedural impropriety. This is the one that usually succeeds the most. It doesn't succeed a lot, but it can do. Which is the CMA have done something wrong in their kind of analysis, right? Like not substantively, but they've done some procedure wrong. You actually had this in the Facebook Giphy case, and there's been others. I remember one which was a UK case for a company called JD Sports, a merger that they had, and CMA actually got something wrong because CAT said that they had failed to take into consideration the impacts of COVID on the merger. So they said that was something the CMA got wrong, and similarly in the Facebook Giphy case, they also got something wrong. But the problem with it is that even if they get something wrong, all that happens is that CAT remit the case back to the CMA. So the CMA take another look at it, and all the CMA have to do is to kind of redo the bit that they got wrong if it's procedural, right? So if they forgot to take into account the impact of COVID, they just look at the impact of COVID, they analyze it, and then they make a decision. So usually you get this sort of cycle where, the CAT remits something, CMA reconsider it, but the CMA arrive at exactly the same conclusion. So
seems like
probably a bit long-winded.
The cat chasing their tail. It seems to me the wackiest way to do business.
It's not unlike the FTC appealing to themselves. Go ahead, Luke. I was
just going to say, I understand that sounds a bit wacky. To some extent it is, but what you have to remember is the purpose of regulatory bodies like this are to be as kind of independent as possible whilst also being highly authoritative, because you don't want to no offense in this regard, but like the FTC process seems more wacky to me, because you have, the DOJ, the FTC, who are supposed to regulate competition. They're supposed to be the arbiters of this, but yet you can take if you've got enough money, you can drag them all the way to court and just try and get them to lose on no other basis than you disagree. So in the UK, where you have regulatory bodies, you do have appeals, bodies that sit adjacent to them. But the idea is that you can't just be questioning everything that they do all the time, because otherwise what's the point of having the body? And I know then people talk about rule of law and all of this sort of stuff, but it's I get that some people find that wacky, but that's kind of why it is in the UK. It's just how it's always been, same as the EU actually.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is all opinions, folks. Whether you agree, you disagree, you're somewhere in the middle. I think we did a bang-up job discussing a very, very hot topic. I know that people in the chat are asking who Lulu is. Lulu Chang. If you don't know who she is, you should follow her on Twitter. She gets out there and she works for Activision Blizzard. And I'll give you her exact title. She is the EVP of Corporate Affairs and CCO of Activision Blizzard. She gets out there and she slings some rocks. And she did exactly that today when this was announced. And she made it more digestible for folks like myself who don't maybe some of the things that were being said went over my head. So shout out to her for getting out there and being in front of the community and being front facing. And look, she's out there, defending the company she works for, Activision Blizzard. And she's been doing a good job at that. I think ultimately you don't put into writing that there are remedies that they are willing to accept if you don't have if you're not going to accept the remedies. If
you're not going to consider the remedies.
Yeah, I look, like I said, I specifically asked Luke here because he is a paraprofessional. This is what he does for a living, and he knows his stuff. You don't have to agree with him. You might disagree 9 out of the 10 words that come out of his mouth, and that is okay. All I can say for this particular deal is that it is the biggest deal. We all have said that already. We are in uncharted waters. I think there's going to be things done to get the deal through that may be considered unscrupulous. Like I can't believe they did this. I can't believe what Microsoft offered up. I think this is a win-win for everybody, especially if Call of Duty stays everywhere. There is no threat if Call of Duty stays everywhere and it goes to places where it's never been before, i.e. Nintendo, right? So, I mean, look, let me just catch up on the last Super Chats. We'll get everyone's final words, and then we'll start doing the round robin and get everybody out of here. Danny Passion Official dropped a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, here's my take. If the deal gets blocked and 5 to 10 years from now, Call of Duty isn't a thing anymore, I would laugh so hard. I'm still confident that it will go through. Moneybag97 drops a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, selling Call of Duty IP, taking all the studios and making your own Call of Duty spin will hurt Sony, potentially. 99 Rookin drops a very generous $2 Super Chat and says, sell the Call of Duty IP to EA and still get it on Game Pass. That would be funny. Eternal Shaddai drops who's been a channel member for 9 months, says, I believe that the CMA and Sony are concerned about concern is about due to each game having power over each individual platform. WoW for PC, Call of Duty for console, Candy Crush for mobile. I mean, there could be something there, but I think the big play here is, Call of Duty is the play. Pixel
WoW does not have that many players, not anywhere near like a PUBG or a
they're
Apex
definitely not getting a lot of new players.
Yeah,
it's big, but it's not as big as you think. And Candy Crush makes more money than Call of Duty, and that's a mobile game. So there's that. Pixelbit G drops a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, could Microsoft sell Call of Duty to 2K, then license it back exclusively? It would be independent. What's CMA's recourse then? That's interesting. Sell it to EA, let them kill Battlefield, let Vin Zampella take over Call of Duty, and well, there you go.
The problem there would be you'd have to set that up beforehand, and that'd be an illegal conversation to have.
No, you'd have to have it.
Do
Well,
it after the
you'd have to
fact.
do it after the fact. You would have to do it for sure. Yeah, that'd be inside trading kind of.
Well, okay. When you come to me, I do have an answer why I do not think that Microsoft will go for divestiture, and I'm going to explain something to everybody.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
That I actually had corroborated earlier today.
Okay, awesome. We'll go to you first. Jerome TJ drops not one but two super chats. The first one of $2. He says, "Hello, guys." Well, hello, Jerome TJ. And the second one says, "I say make only only Call of Duty on PlayStation forever. Just shut up and have all the games on Game Pass." Yeah, I don't think that.
The
I mean, that's what
ultimate
Sony would like.
sacrificial lamb. So
yeah,
they make
Sony
the game
would like that.
just
Sure.
for Call of Duty, just for
Yeah.
PlayStation, and then shut them up. They go off, they make their money, and then Game Pass gets everything else. What a thought!
Scorched earth, right? Moneybags 97 drops 2 additional $5 super chat and says CMA will pass deal. People forget MS invests billions in their cloud stock exchange and also helps them. I mean, that's a possibility, but you know, we're going to see. Moneybags just an additional $5 super chat says ponies always support the devs but don't want the deal, but devs do want it to help devs save jobs and their mental health. I mean, that's for sure. Brett Bingham just very generous additional $5 super chat, and Satya to CMA. Would it be a shame if someone were to stop technical support for the UK? I love it. Listen, everyone, we'll go to you first, brother. Sell your brand, but before you do, give us your breakdown.
So here's the thing: why I think that divestiture is such a hard pill to swallow. And I know they said, you know, we want this for PC, we want it for mobile, Candy Crush, and all that. But I think the reason a company like Microsoft spends $70 billion on an Activision, and this is $70 billion in cash, and it is more than they have ever spent on anything, including their second highest purchase, which is LinkedIn. So it is over double what they paid for LinkedIn. Right. The reason for that is data. Activision, a lot of people don't know this, Activision has they have their own ad business, right? That's what you do when you have access to 400 million monthly active users, right? That's your Candy Crush data, your COD mobile data, your Overwatch data, all that, right? Your Diablo data. So 400 million monthly active users. We may also know that Microsoft a few months ago finalized their acquisition of the Xandr business from AT&T. What Xandr specializes in is OTT CTV ads, which is over the top and connected television ads. Yep. That's your Apple TVs, your Rokus, your Fire Sticks, and wait for it, consoles. So when you're watching Hulu or you're watching any video app on your TV and you get those ads, that's what Xandr specializes in, and they are close to number one in that market. Not OPP fizzle. That's something else. OTT, over the top. So Microsoft wants to grow their ad business, and the way you grow that ad business is with first-party data. This is so people want to buy ads through your Xandr service, and you can target that people. You can target those people that you have data on. So if you were, looking at a new Tesla, you're just going to see a Tesla ad on your, even though Tesla doesn't advertise, but you know what I'm saying. So the point is, Facebook and Google does play in the space, but Facebook, they don't play in the CTV space like you would think. So Microsoft sees a place where they can enter the ad market, because right now their ad business is really from Bing, which is about an $8 billion a year business. That may sound like a lot, but Google's search revenue is $149 billion. So you see that, yes, combining Xbox and Activision puts the gaming division as bigger than Windows, so it would be $25 billion a year. But the upside on advertising, which is all going to be about the data that you have, is where you can make the real money and laugh at that gaming money. And that is why Microsoft spends this kind of money. And if you get rid of COD, you lose a large portion of that data. And now you don't have the synergies that you would normally have.
Everborn, isn't that also the reason why they could and potentially would make all of Call of Duty a sacrificial lamb if you wanted? Because they'll still get all that data, even if it's on
exactly. And the hilarious thing is, no one is talking about that. Not one regulator, not one so-called journalist. No one has said anything about the data, and that is where it all comes from, because they are trying to jump into that advertising space. So don't let all this other stuff fool you. The deal is for that. That is why Microsoft makes that deal. And then the last piece of this puzzle, you may say, okay, well, all right, they have the Xandr platform now, ad platform. They would have this data. Where do they serve that ads? In the Netflix deal they just did. And it is not a coincidence that the Netflix deal was announced so close to the closing of the Xandr deal. And the reason you may wonder, well, why didn't Google get the Netflix ad business? Because they're not strong in OTT ads. And also Google has the YouTube TV. So that is considered as a competitor to Netflix. So Microsoft was uniquely positioned to get the Netflix business, have the ad business, and you add the Call of Duty first party data to your ad business. And there you go.
There's your
So
money.
keep that in mind, and that's why they won't spin out.
Yeah, they need the numbers. They need the people. That's why everybody's like, oh, they have to keep it exclusive. They kind of don't, because they make more money if they don't, and that's because of the ads in addition to the sales.
Yeah, which again,
absolutely.
there is a world where the regulators look at it and they see that you're offering this 10-year deal, and they will have people to regulate that 10-year deal. And Microsoft is going to do whatever they need to do outside of getting rid of Call of Duty to get this deal done. We will see by April what the findings are. Again, the way that Microsoft has responded today seems to suggest to me, that's to me, and I could be wrong, that they understand that they are, and they're currently talking with the CMA to get this deal done. And I think ultimately it's going to benefit everyone involved. CMA, Microsoft, and more importantly, us, the consumer, and in that region of the world, the UK consumers. But Mag, I know you got to go, brother. Sell your brand. Let's get you out of here.
Yes. Well, yeah, you know what? It was an informative show once again with Luke Steele here, and of course, Everborn and Kiyosante and Hargeet, Crispy Bomb and yourself, of course, and a record-breaking chat tonight. So it was absolutely wonderful. I'm sure we're going to revisit this in about 7 weeks from now, or 8 weeks, whatever it is, and then we're going to have
next week. There'll be something next week.
Yeah, no kidding, right? It's always on a Wednesday, isn't it?
Yep.
But anyways, it was an absolute pleasure, guys. Everybody, you all know where to find me, and you all know where you're going to find me here again. Here next week. And also just a little tidbit of information. I do have one hell of an announcement coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Nice. Looking forward to that. Yes.
Yeah, it's something substantial, but I will say nothing until that is all said and done. Just a little teaser for everybody. But anyways, Everybody have yourself a wonderful evening. Have a great night. We'll see you guys all next week.
Take care, brother. We'll see you later.
Real quick, there are 2 super chats, one that was missed and one that was extra, just added at the bottom. I just put it in the DMs. Yes.
Let me get to, so hold on. Let me get to the brand and let me bring up the 6. There we go. Let me get to the private chat. We also have, Highlander 001 drops a very generous additional $5 super chat and says, Bobby Kotick said on CNBC that Sony has not answered or returned any of his calls. That is very telling to me. Yeah, Sony's just dirty like that, and that's why they're trying to hold up the FTC and Microsoft subpoena, because they want data, which is, again, their Achilles heel of 12 years of deals that include the past, present, and current future deals. And what really does is listen, as gamers, we understand that for Sony, the pinnacle aspect of their entire business model is keeping content off of Xbox. That is a freaking fact. You don't even have to have half a brain to Google that, and you can see how dominant they have been. Simply, it is way more than their first-party games being phenomenal. Okay, it is about keeping content off of their competition. That is a fact. The CMA knows that. The FTC knows that. The EU Commission knows that. It's a fact. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 8, 7, 6. What a tag name. Drops a very generous $5 super chat. And
I thought it said 8765309.
Oh, see now you have to be an '80s kid to know exactly what he's talking about, and they're only old us bastards know about that. He says if they want Call of Duty to be sold off, then Sony should not be allowed to buy it or have any marketing deals with it as well. Fair is fair. I mean, that's something to be said about that. I mean, why give the market leader the number one selling game, allow them to buy it, which I don't think they would.
Because they just allowed them to buy the number 2 selling first-person shooter, but nobody complained about that.
$3.6 billion went through as quickly as I tie and lease up my left shoe. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. But, Kay Asante, sell your brand. You're going to have a big show this Saturday. Talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to be back at it. We're going to talk about the games. We'll talk about the news. Did anybody hear that Nintendo had a 45-minute Nintendo Direct today?
Yeah.
A couple of big ones.
For a lot of people, Yes, I, for one, am enjoying Tetris on my Abacus. I will not be enjoying the fact they expect me to pay $70 for games on my Abacus. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, my Abacus. Anyway, so catch us on the Game Circle podcast. I don't know about me paying. I know you will pay it, Mr. Zelda apologist, but we're going to talk about that on Saturday on the Gaming Circle podcast. Oh, you'll be wearing that shirt, sir. I want to see you wearing that shirt. And yes, we'll ridicule Everborn Saga for having a better camera than me. We'll do all of that this Saturday. Yeah, the man's got a good camera. It's top notch, sir. Yes. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're actually gonna even have we're gonna get messy because we're having like Xbox like console warriors in the house. We're gonna have Dirk Griggly. He's self-confessed. He's like, I'm here for the slander, so it'll be a fun show. We're gonna have conversations.
You can't put me in the same room with Dirt or King.
Or maybe he'll just be sad because the deal and all of that. Who knows how it'll go? But we expect to have a very good, very fun show this Saturday. So come check us out. TKO Sante on all the places you want to find me, including that place that pretty much kind of feels broken. So I guess find me on the Discord because we do have
Twitter's back up. It's working.
Yeah, for now. In the next 5 minutes, it's going to go down again.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, folks, we should all think about a plan B because these are the end of days for Twitter. Just so it seems. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they're giving us a little hint by turning it off just real quick and going, this is why you should depend on us.
You need something else.
You need a plan B. Don't use it.
We have reverted
back to email
without the stupidity of Twitter.
That's what I had to do. I had to do the old-fashioned way.
Let's get snail mail and email. Absolutely.
Let's get Luke Steele out of here. It's super late where he is. Luke, sell your brand, brother. Where can people find you on other shows, and more importantly, reach out to you on a potential working social media such as Twitter?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been great to be here. And
it's great to have you, bro. Thank you.
Great chat as always. So always happy. And we didn't even we planned this about something else. So it's just again coincidental that the CMA came out. I think the last time I was on.
Deliver.
Yeah, I think the last time I was on, actually, the FTC blocking news broke while we were on.
They blocked in December. Yeah.
It's just I have a way with these things. But yeah, thank you for having me on. So you can find me at LukeSteele90 on Twitter and other shows. I'll pop up randomly, but the one that I'm on fairly consistently is the Indie Gamer podcast, which is on the Indie Gamer channel on YouTube, which is unsurprisingly dedicated to indie games.
You should do more of that. You should do more of that. You and the Indie Gamer, y'all do a great show. You should do more of that.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. Yes. So find us there, but I will warn you that I will not be talking about anything legal on that show.
Thankfully, it's fine.
Yeah. Always happy to come here and talk about it though, because it's great. It's great fun. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Hargeet Chani, sell your brand, brother. Talk about Game On Daily. We know that Gaz unfortunately left the show with Colt Eastwood because obviously the time frame was an issue, especially because he's in the UK. But that means that we're getting more Source videos, and if anything is similar to what we got last time, I'm all for it.
Yep. Yeah, so GameOnDaily.com and YouTube.com/GameOnDaily. We have our go live every Saturday at 4. I actually had more questions for Luke, but I guess we'll try to do something later at some point maybe and ask him.
Yeah, by all means, send me an email.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the Nintendo Direct, cool stuff happening there. Some drops today, which was pretty cool. And then the Tears of the Kingdom still looks good.
Oh, absolutely looks fantastic, dude.
Yep. But yeah, catch me here on Wednesdays at 7 Eastern, and then I seem to be on RDX all the time too. So that's Tuesdays at 8 Dealers podcast.
Yeah,
8 p.m. Eastern. So check me out there. H Johnny on Xbox.
Brother,
Play Hogwarts Legacy. Get it.
Yes,
if you haven't gotten it
absolutely.
already, buy that game.
Listen, I got news for you. I'm staying up past midnight because all I've been thinking about is that effing game the whole time I was on this show. I was like, man, I wish I could do two things at once. I can't because I'm the host.
Mrs.
game is so
Boomstick is already
good.
mad at you right now.
Hey, Boom, let me do a quick outro real quick because I want to
do your
let
thing.
everybody know we still have some bundles left of the Everborn
Talk about
Saga.
it.
So we sold out in like 2 days, and then I did another bulk order. And we still have a few left. So I do want to let everyone know, if you want to get caught up to date on the Everborn Saga, go to everbornsaga.com. You can get every book that we have ever published, all for $49.99. That's like a $20 savings. And
No
all the
hentai?
books come signed. And I promise you, it's going to be some of the best quality stuff you've picked up. There's no hentai. I'm sorry, Gad, but it is Western fantasy style storytelling mixed with sort of manga style art. So if you're into those things, check it out. It's 3, soon to be 4 interconnected series, all telling a different part of the same story.
Asked, is it shipping in Australia, sir?
I ship to anywhere in the world, but you pay for shipping. So I recommend you order we have all our books on Amazon, and that works with your Prime shipping. It's a little cheaper if you order it from me if you're in the States, but if you're outside of the States, we recommend Amazon. It's just it won't come signed. And Amazon prints those books. We have our own printer for the local US stuff. So check it out. Just go to everbornsaga.com. Just look at it. I promise you, the art alone will sell you. Check it out. Everbornsaga.com. Click on any one of the books. Scroll down. You'll see the package laid out right there for you. We still have a few bundles left.
Nice. And Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Tomorrow night, you're going to be talking about this, I'd imagine. Where can people find you discussing the hot breaking news? And sorry about all of the talk on Hogwarts that we might force you into buying that game.
Well, and that's one of those things. Like I look at this whole scenario, and I follow a lot of people, and sometimes I probably question myself, like, should I follow that person? But I do anyway because they don't personally attack me. And I go and look at it and I say, why are you attacking this person because they're playing a damn game? That's my first thought process. Like, why are you losing your mind because someone else is having enjoyment in a game that has nothing to do with the person you don't like? It just doesn't. Like, stop it. And yeah, I might buy it. And it's at Chris Baum on Twitter if it works, I guess. I mean,
it's working now. It's still working, folks.
Okay. So at Chris Baum on Twitter, Chris Baum 28 Xbox Live. Find me tomorrow night, 8 p.m. hopefully on the next podcast. Don't really know, but that's kind of a little dig. But got a little brotherly love there. And we got Retro Renegade 7 p.m. Tuesday night, and of course back here on Primetime Gaming Wednesday. And hey, you never know, I show up on freaking Friday morning.
Yeah, sometimes you're on Breakfast at Boom. Sometimes you're on. Yeah, you're here, there, and everywhere, and we love you for it, brother. Yeah.
See you there.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the record-breaking. We topped out at 753 live viewers. That is a record for this small program. Thank you so much. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Hitting the like button would be extremely helpful as well. A big shout out to all of the chat. Lethal Papa, one of the main moderators that we have, walking silently and carrying a big band stick. It's because he's here that he's out there on these YouTube streets, keeping it safe and fun, because that's what this chat is all about. And I thank you again to all the super chats that come in. Like I've said before, those allow for Mrs. Boomstick and I to do the big giveaways. Last year, we did unprecedented giveaways. We've never done as many as we did last year. We gave away $3,500 worth of gift cards. And when we couldn't get you the gift card for your said platform, we sent it to you via PayPal and even paid the transfer fee. And that's not a part of the $3,500 that we gave away, because we want to give back to as many people as we can, because you've done so much for us. And those super chats help out in a big way. And they do fund the big giveaways. And I will close out the show, folks, with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.